love to say it. Everything happens for a reason. And maybe they're right. Maybe there really is a reason for all of it. But here's something I noticed. When something good happens, we don't say, "It was meant to be." We say, "I worked hard." We say, "I stayed focused." We say, "I made this happen." But when something bad happens, when someone leaves, when the plan falls apart, when life just stops making sense, that's when we say it. Everything happens for a reason. And I have to ask, do we say that because it's true? Or do we say it because the pain is too hard to sit with? Last episode, we asked a hard question. Do you even like yourself? And this might sound like a totally different topic, but I don't think it is. Because if we don't really know ourselves, if we don't know what we're afraid of, if we don't know what we keep choosing, if we don't know what kind of pain feels normal to us, then how much of our life are we calling fate? How much are we calling meant to be? And how much of it is just a pattern we never stop to look at? I think people use that phrase in two different ways. Sometimes it helps. Sometimes it gives people just enough hope to survive a moment that would break them. And I'm not here to take that away from anyone. I'm not here to tell you it's a lie. Who am I to say that? But here's what I do think. Sometimes that phrase makes us skip past the truth. And the truth might be this. Some things are just bad. Some things are just unfair. Some things hurt because they hurt. Not every painful thing needs a pretty explanation the moment it happens. Sometimes the thing that happened wasn't a lesson yet. It wasn't a blessing yet. It was just pain, and maybe it's okay to call it that. There's a verse in the Bible, in Ecclesiastes. It says the race is not always won by the fastest. The battle is not always won by the strongest. But time and chance happen to everyone. I think about that a lot, because we want life to be clean. We want to believe good people always win. We want to believe hard work always pays off. We want to believe pain always has a clear reason. But life doesn't always work that way. Sometimes people who work hard still lose. Sometimes people who did everything right still get hurt. Sometimes the wrong person wins. Sometimes the good thing just doesn't happen. That doesn't mean life has no meaning. But maybe it means we should stop pretending every moment is easy to explain. Here's where it gets interesting. When something good happens, we want credit. And maybe we should get it. If you worked hard, you worked hard. If you stayed up late, kept going, made sacrifices, that matters. That's real. But then when something bad happens, we hand it all over to fate. We say, it was supposed to happen this way. But was it? Or did it just happen? Or was it a choice? Or was it a pattern we kept repeating? Or was it something we saw coming but ignored anyway? Now I want to be clear. Not everything bad is your fault. Some things happen to people that they never asked for and didn't deserve. Some pain is just pain. But some pain keeps coming back because we keep opening the same door. And those two things are very different. Carl Jung said something I can't stop thinking about. He said when something inside of us is not made conscious, it shows up outside of us as fate. That's a scary idea, because it means some of the things we call fate might really be parts of us we never looked at. Maybe I keep expecting people to leave, so I choose people who already look like they're leaving. Maybe I keep expecting to fail, so I stop trying right before something could actually change. Maybe I say I want peace, but peace feels strange to me, so I keep going back to chaos. Not because chaos is good, but because chaos feels familiar. And sometimes familiar feels safer than better. That's hard to admit, because nobody wants to think they're comfortable inside their own pain. Nobody wants to believe that misery can feel like home. But for some people, it does. Not because they want to suffer, but because suffering is what they know. So when someone says, I always get cheated on, or bad things always happen to me, or I knew this was going to fall apart, I wonder, not in a blaming way, not in a cruel way, in an honest way. Are they seeing the future? Or are they repeating the past? Are they unlucky? Or have they gotten used to choosing what hurts? Are they cursed? Or are they living inside a story they never stop to question? Again, I'm not saying every bad thing is your fault. That would be wrong, and that would be unfair. But there is a difference between pain that found you and pain you keep going back to because it feels normal. And when you see that difference clearly, the question changes. It's not, why does this always happen to me? It becomes, what part of me still believes this is all I deserve? Here's the thing I keep landing on. Maybe everything happens for a reason. Maybe it doesn't. And here's what I realized. I don't actually know, and neither do you. To truly know if everything happens for a reason, you would have to be outside of this whole thing. Outside of time. Outside of this reality. Looking at it all from somewhere we can't reach. So when we say everything happens for a reason, we're not really making a fact. We're making a choice. A choice about how to feel about what happened. And sometimes that choice is beautiful. Sometimes it saves people. But sometimes it becomes a way to stop asking the questions that might actually change something. Because if it was all meant to be, then maybe I don't have to look too closely at what I keep doing. And that is the part that worries me. A bad thing doesn't need to be good for something good to come from it. A wound doesn't need to make sense for healing to matter. A loss doesn't need to be fair for you to grow from it. Maybe the meaning was never inside what happened. Maybe the meaning is always in what you do next. So maybe the better question isn't, did everything happen for a reason? Maybe the better question is, what am I going to do with what happened? Will I turn it into a wound I carry forever? Will I turn it into a warning I finally listen to? Will I turn it into a doorway? Because maybe not everything was meant to happen. Maybe some things just happened. But what happens next? That part still belongs to you.